The purpose of the public hearing is to hear from the citizens' comments. First item is B 2015-07. Are you going to read it? I just read.
It's Bill 2015-07-07, ordinance number 872, an ordinance to change the zoning of certain property in the city of Fairview, Tennessee, located on Old Nashville Road, owned by Timothy R. Mangrum and wife Jessica Mangrum, is shown on the Fairview Geological listing of assessment roll map 042, parcel 065.12, 1.03 acres from RS10 to RN12. Second, part B, Bill number 2015-08, ordinance number 873, an ordinance to amend the City of Fairview, Tennessee Municipal Zoning Code, Article 16, Section 16-102.5, building permits, and to authorize the non-enforcement of 2009 International Building Code Section 105 permits, subsection 105.2, work exempt from permits, sub-building, paragraph 1, which has been adopted by the City of Fairview, shall not be enforced by the Code Department of the City of Fairview, Tennessee, and shall be treated as deleted.
Okay, is anybody here to speak on item A, the rezoning of the Mangrum property? Do you have anything to say? Okay. Okay, and then the item B, anybody have any comments tonight on us changing the municipal zoning code? Okay. Meeting closed. I'd like to call tonight's Board of Commissioners meeting to order. It's April 2nd, 2015. The time is 7:02. The first item on the agenda is prayer and pledge. Would you like to pray, Mr. Commissioner Johnson?
Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day. We thank you for all your many blessings of life, Lord. We ask you at this time to be with each and every one of us as we make the decisions for our city. We hope that those decisions will be in the best interest of all the citizens. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Second item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda.
Move to approve.
Okay, we have a first and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Yes.
I think that's how they just approved it.
Yep. Do we need to go back and do that? Okay. Well, we had the copy of the, you already made the changes on the agenda. The copy we have. Yeah, that's the one. So we don't need to do it again?
No.
Okay. So if they say it's okay. But thank you. Okay, item 3 is citizens' comments, and we have Mr. Bob Brooks with us tonight.
Ma'am, gentlemen, my name's Bob Brooks. I live on Chester Road. And I think we can agree that we've come to a crisis situation, and really we need to do something or we wouldn't be selling off property, considering the cutbacks that we are. So we didn't get here just in the last few months. So I'd like to kind of address that. Since 2010, the city has spent around $500,000 a year more than it's brought in. That's in the last 5 years. Now, that's according to our auditors. Those are the published numbers from our auditors. So everybody's got an explanation as to why we spent 1 year or another year or whatever. But the fact is, we've overspent our income. Now, if an individual does that, and if we continue to do that, we get into a situation that's called bankruptcy. Now, that's a word that scares everybody to death. Obviously, we don't want that. I believe it's that serious that we make some fundamental changes. And we talk a lot about our debt-to-asset ratio, and we're in a good position when it comes to debt-to-asset ratio. But businesses go bankrupt every day with good debt-to-asset ratios because they don't have cash flow. If we don't have cash flow, we're in very bad trouble. So we've got to make some changes. The changes that, well, first of all, let me just say, I think that we need to analyze what we absolutely have to have as a city. This means, are there positions that we can consolidate? Are we overstaffed in areas? What do we have in resources that we don't absolutely need? Now, we've already decided to sell assets, but if we do that just to balance this year's budget, I believe that's extremely short-sighted. So I propose that the BOC consider forming a committee made up of as many experts in each area as we can. That means finance, management, public service, human resources, and really determine the minimum needs that we have as a city, because, as I say, this is a structural problem. We have been doing this for at least the last 5 years. It's not something that just took place. So I think these, if it was at all possible, I think those committee members need to come from outside of the city to put fresh eyes on our situation. It could be folks from Publix, Walmart, some professional people that have large budgets as we do to manage. The bottom line is, if we only have $10 in the bank, we can't buy a $15 anything. Now, it's been said, well, this is just a small thing. If we can't find this amount of money in a $5.2 million budget, we're in bad shape. Well, guess what? We're in bad shape. So a regular individual, a citizen here in town, might be able to go out and get a second job. He might be able to talk his boss into giving him a raise. The city can't get a second job. The city could ask for a raise, but most people don't like that because that means more taxes. So we have to decide as a city the things that are absolutely necessary, not the things that we think we need, that we absolutely need, because what we're talking about now just gets us through the next 3 months. It's not a significant process or structural change. And if we don't have that structural change, well, I'll let you to your own imagination. Thank you.
Thank you. Item number 4 is awards and recognition.
Mayor, I have none tonight.
Okay. Public announcements.
Thank you, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Board of Commissioners. Just a reminder of the emission testings Monday and Tuesday from 7:30 to noon. And at this time, I believe Chief O'Neill is in here. I'd like for him to come forward and make a quick announcement that he's going to be involved in.
We just want to let everybody know that on April the 9th, we'll be having a mock crash scene at the high school. It'll be around 9 o'clock in the morning. We're going to be doing it for prom. There's going to be EMS there, fire department's going to be there, police department's going to be there, life flight helicopter's going to be there, sheriff's department's going to be there. So it's going to be a pretty large deal. It's going to go on for about 45 minutes. We just want to let everybody know that it is going on so that people aren't panicking when they're driving by, seeing all this equipment. It'll be done in the front parking lot where the buses park. The school system is also going to be putting out calls to the parents through their phone systems, I believe the night before and the morning of, to try to let everybody know so people don't get into a panic. And that's about it.
Mayor, could we see that those things get put on the website and on Channel 19 if we could, so that people might see it that way?
Yes, sir, I can make sure of that.
Thank you. That's great.
All right, I have one other that Dr. Julia Orr sent me an email on. She may have sent everyone else an email, but Special Olympics is April 15th, starting at 9 o'clock to 1:30 at the football field. And I've actually got several from administration going to attend that morning. And so I'd like to invite everybody out to support this very special event.
Yes.
Thank you.
It's a fun one. We've been, I know several of us have gone in the past. Also, on April 7th is the job fair at the rec center. And it starts at 10. I think it ends at 2. I'm not sure. I'm sure that's in the paper. I see Dr. Orr shaking her head. So okay. So we want to put that. And then also, I know the chamber is having their business expo, but for some reason, I don't see that in my calendar. Anybody else have that date? I don't know
It's
why.
the
I know
18th.
It's the 18th?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so
And-
Saturday, the 18th.
And I'll announce it again on our next meeting.
Okay, great. So we got plenty of time. We got some great things going on in the community. Okay, that moves us,
Mayor?
yes, yeah, I'm sorry.
Thank you. I have an announcement on May the 2nd, Cross Point Church is going to be remulching the playground at Bowie Park. They are also, in addition to just bringing manpower to actually make that happen and help the Parks Department, they're also going to pay for half the cost associated with the mulch. So probably on the next agenda, I will address the rest of the cost. But I just wanted to go ahead and make that announcement on May the 2nd. And I think not only are they going to be doing the remulching, they're going to have a cookout festival type thing afterwards. So just wanted to go ahead and let everybody know about that.
Sorry, I didn't look left. Anybody else?
The Easter egg hunt this weekend.
No?
Is the Easter egg hunt Saturday?
At the rec center? I don't know. I don't have anybody, we were talking Easter egg hunt up here. I'm not sure when the rec center's,
They have an Easter egg hunt this Saturday, you might know.
may have to check on the paper on that one. I don't know.
Not that I know of.
Okay.
Once they get 18, you forget to look on the Easter egg hunts. So, okay, we're going to move on to the staff comments. We'll just start over to the right. Frank, if you want to, Mr. Humber, you want to start us out? Do you have anything tonight?
Thank you, Mayor and Vice Mayor and Commissioners. I just wanted to point out that we had a meeting last week with Regent Homes, developers, and pretty well known in this part of the country. So they've got a small project they're looking at in town, but we feel like they're looking at us for bigger and better things too. So we're really encouraged by that. I thought we had an excellent meeting today with TDEC, some developers, and others. I thought the comments were made from people from TDEC saying that they felt like the city of Fairview was getting way ahead of this, on this whole issue of decentralized sewer systems. So I think that you're to be commended for that, and Mr. Hall, and, you know, but I think we're definitely going in the right direction. I think we've gotten good positive feedback on that too. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. I'll skip over the, Brandy, you have anything for us tonight? Okay. Mr. Darty.
Thank you, Mayor Carroll. We're getting into budget season, very, very busy. We've had our a joint meeting with you guys this week, and I feel like it went very well. We're addressing some issues, and the FRC is excited. We think we've got some ideas to bring to you for the upcoming fiscal budget and for years to come, for that matter. But I've got several items on the agenda, and with that, I'll close.
Anybody have any questions? Okay. And then I don't see, Keith, are you back there? Did you have anything at the park?
Just want to let everybody know, start party next Friday night from 7:30 to 10 p.m.
Okay.
Come and enjoy the stars.
And I guess y'all are still doing camp signups right now? Yes. Well, do y'all have a cutoff on that?
I'm not exactly sure on the cutoff, but it'll be pretty much all the way up until they're filled, so.
Okay. Okay, if that's everybody. Let's see. I never know what to do on this. Approval of the minutes, but I guess that's in the consent, so we're going to move on to item 8, the approval of the consent agenda.
Number A, approval of the minutes from March the 5th, 2015 public hearing. B, approval of the minutes from March the 5th, 2015 Board of Commissioners meeting. C, approval of the minutes from the March 19, 2015 Board of Commissioners meeting. Item number D, second reading of Bill 2015-07, ordinance number 872, and ordinance to change the zoning of certain property in the city of Fairview, Tennessee, located on Old Nashville Road, owned by Timothy R. Mangum and wife Jessica Mangum, as shown on the Fairview Geological Listing Assessment Road Map 042, parcel 065.12, 1.03 acres from RS 10 to an RM 20. 12, I'm sorry.
Move for approval.
Second.
Okay, first and second. All in favor? Oh, discussion, wait.
Mayor, if I may, I saw in the ordinance, and it may be on down, but I saw in the ordinance where there was a typo on the zoning. Yeah, on 8D. Is that on down, or is that part of the consent agenda? I think that's part of the consent agenda. No, it's,
8D.
yeah. Yeah, it says down, it says now therefore be it ordained by the city of Fairview, Tennessee as follows, and it actually says from RM10 to RS12, and it should say RS10 to RM12. Just make sure that it's correct
Larry, can you make an adjustment in that?
and approve it as amended.
It's amended to RM 12.
Yeah.
Okay, so everybody good at that? We got a amended motion. Do we have to vote on it as amended or just do the amended? Okay. We got a first and second. No more discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Item number 9, old business, discussion and take action on approval of resurfacing bid contract contingent upon 2015 wage rates being incorporated into the contract documents by a change order. Frank?
We're just, adding that we are approving those rates will be part of our contract documents on the research contract.
I'll move for approval. Second.
First and second, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, new business, item A.
Discuss or take action on request from funding for local schools. Mr. Purcell.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I would assume it falls to me just to introduce Dr. Oyer. So please come forward and lead us through what you'd like to discuss.
And also Mr. Oakley.
That's okay. Good evening. My name's Brent Oakley. I have the privilege of serving as principal of Fairview Elementary. I've been serving in that role since July when Ms. Tidwell retired last summer. As you all know, Dr. Oyer is here with me. First and foremost, thank you all so much for adding us to your agenda. I know you have a lot of things going on. We really appreciate you taking a few minutes to give to us. I want to take just a second and give you a little bit of background information about what happens in the summer in our schools here in the 4 schools here in the Fairview community. We each have a summer school program. This isn't uncommon throughout the district. A lot of schools have a summer school program, and it's targeted towards the specific academic needs of students. Something that we do differently here in Fairview, and that was kind of the brainchild that Dr. Oyer came up with last year, is a program called Fairview One. Fairview One is an acronym meaning onward, never ending, and it kind of serves 2 purposes. One purpose is to continue to build strong relationships and a common culture amongst Westwood Elementary, Fairview Elementary, Middle, and High. The second part of it, and to me the more important part, is I've learned a lot about it because our relationships are so strong already, is that it provides a cultural experience for kids that otherwise wouldn't have opportunities. I'm going to share a quick story with you that I learned from another principal here in Williamson County that used to serve as assistant principal at Fairview Elementary about cultural experience and the importance of that with our kids. When he was serving as assistant principal at Fairview Elementary, they took a group of kids down to the Frist Center, the Frist Art Museum in downtown Nashville. He said the kids had gotten off the bus and they're in line, and he said, of course, they're worried about safety with the traffic and things like this. And a young lady points and says, "What is that?" And as he walks over, he can't see what she's pointing at, and she points again and says, "What is that, Mr. Walker?" And his reply was, "Well, that's a parking meter." And so those are the cultural experiences that we're trying to show these students. And once they get those cultural experiences, we see a direct impact in the classroom. It gives them schema or background knowledge as we introduce new concepts and new lessons. And we do all of that through Fairview One, which is unique because we are the only schools in Williamson County that offer it. So I'm going to kind of turn it over to Dr. Oyer because she can share the nuts and bolts and how it unfolded last year and some of those things.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you again. Thank you, Mr. Hall, for being our point person and getting in front of you guys. Some of you are familiar with this program because the city sponsored us last year and helped us get t-shirts. Those of you who have ever talked to me about this program know I'm passionate about it. I'm committed to the fact that it grows our littles all the way to being high school students. It gives our older students leadership opportunities. We personally, I can tell you, personally saw students turn significant corners from being involved in this last year, from being quiet, non-confident students to being students who I just watched play on the softball field, a young woman who literally was saying to me, "I can't wait till I'm 18 to drop out." I'm not saying it was just Fairview One, but Fairview One was a significant piece for her. So we stand before you tonight in a moment of need. So I'm going to give you guys a little bit of a handout. I need to keep one. So I have stood here before and bragged to you guys about things that have gone well and thanked you, but I'm very clear that tonight we stand before you with a significant need. Our most significant funder, who is a local foundation, recently decided not to be involved with us anymore. Philanthropic endeavors, we are learning, are changing their desired outcomes. And what that means is that they are asking us for quantitative measures in order to continue to give us funding. The challenge for us is that we're not really rooting this in quantitative measurement. So we can tell you some really great stories and we can tell you about engagement, and we believe that we're changing lives in doing it. And they were looking for things like test score improvement. And we're just not there yet. We're not ready to put our stamp on a shift that we can quantify. So what you have in front of you, as good students, I can tell many of you already flipped to the second page. I love that you are diving right into what's there. On the first page, what you'll see is that we have two critical needs. We have our food needs to feed our students, and we have our transportation needs to get our students on field trips. As Mr. Oakley mentioned, a key piece of this is about exposure. It's about getting us kids, our students, into the community in places that they might not go otherwise. Last year, Mr. Oakley shared a story I'll share with you. We took our students to the Skirmerhorn Symphony Center, and they saw a private event and toured the Skirmerhorn Symphony Center in a way that no other student in the Metro Nashville area had an opportunity to do. And they still talk about it dressed up in their Sunday best and went and had an experience. So we value these field trip opportunities immensely. So what you see in front of you is the food cost, and I broke these down as best we could. We will serve about 200 students is our goal this summer. I think we served 162 last year, so we're hoping to ratchet that up and get to 200 students. That'll be for 16 days. So we calculated food at a minimum of $3 and $3.50. Now, everybody in the room knows that if we're trying to feed them, it's probably going to be more than a $3 lunch, but we're basing that off what we would hope could be a school lunch or something similar. And then I listed the transportation, the specific field trips that we're interested in doing this year to go to Radnor Lake, the Nashville Zoo, the Nashville Science Center, Bowie here in our own backyard, and Opryland. The prices that you have before you at the bottom of page 1 are prices that we've had reduced. So we've worked with all of those locations and said, what can you do to help us bring 200 of this very specific population of students to you? And even though it doesn't necessarily look like it, those are reduced costs, so we're happy to have those. So what's on the second page is really the basics. It's what we need. I want you to know that in the green box there, we're not coming to you and asking you to do this on your own. We, as a district, you'll see, and I was very intentional with putting Title I funds there because I want everybody in the room and anybody who is watching this to know what Title I funds are, because they are often up for discussion to be cut. And the Title I funds are funds that we can use to serve students in our community because of the number of students who identify as being on free and reduced lunch. So we encourage as many of our students to do that as possible, even at the high school level when they don't even eat lunch anymore, because it turns into reduced test fees and things like this. It gets money into our schools. So the district has really channeled a significant chunk of that change, as you can see, into doing this project. One, because they believe in it, and two, because they are adamant that we believe that this will lead to academic change in our schools. So you'll see that the district is funding $33,400. What that means, and I just want to translate this to you, what that means is that those funds aren't coming directly into our 4 schools during the school year. So ideally, where we want to get to as an organization, meaning Fairview One, is that we can find sponsors and foundations and grants that will pay for this so that that $33,400 can be used for us in our traditional 9 months of school, but we're just not there yet. Remember, we're just in year 2. So the district is giving that, and then as schools, we're giving about $2,000 too, and that's from Title I funds in the school. So what you have there is the food, as we said, and then the field trip travel and the field trip admissions. So we stand before you very humbly asking for a significant amount of money, again, because one of our primary funders that really made it happen last year pulled out and said that they need a little bit more, and they may consider coming back to us, but we're really not in a position to wait. We've got 200 kids that we want to say, we're doing this, and we're doing this the way we want to do it. And so we are here to ask how we can partner in this and how you can help us make it happen. What questions do you have for us, if any?
So the exact dollar from the city that you're requesting is?
$15,806.
The 200 students have already been selected.
I know, I can say specifically for the high school, ours have. We invited our students, I don't know what day it is. Today's Thursday, I think we did it on Tuesday. We invited them. Now, everyone that we invite won't come. We recognize that. And I'm not sure about the other schools. I do want to mention, Mr. Schrader is sick, and Mrs. Garcia had a death in her family. So they are not here for reason, but we're representing all 4 of the Fairview schools.
If someone outside of the city wanted to donate to this cause, how could they accomplish that?
They can reach out to any of the 4 of us. And we would gladly accept support from all over Williamson County.
I've got a question. Of these students, how many of these are Title I students?
All of the students are targeted students. So every student that will participate in this is considered an at-risk student.
Very good.
Great question.
One more question.
Yes, sir.
How close are we and it's nothing that we really want to do, but how close are we to getting to the 50% to where we can provide summer meals?
It's a really good question. We talked about it today. I'm not an expert on this topic. Part of the issue for us is that my understanding is that the lines that were drawn to put us in a position to do that changed by the federal government, not by us. I can tell you as a high school, our percentage is 36%. What we know is that that's not a true representation because the middle school has a higher percentage and the elementary schools are both site-wide, system-wide, school-wide Title I, which means they have a high enough percentage that they can serve all of their students with Title I money. I will make a plug that if you are ever having conversations with students or parents about identifying as free and reduced, we desperately need it at the high school level. We're the only Title I high school in the county, and we could, I believe very strongly that we could be a school-wide Title I school if if students would identify as free and reduced.
And that's difficult to get them to do, I understand
That's right.
that. And that's something that we're going to have to just reach out to
They
them.
think that it's just about food at the high school level. And so, if you're eating a bag of chips and a soda, you think, I don't need to have free and reduced lunch. It's just costing me $1.50. But it pays for AP advanced placement tests. It pays for transportation in situations like this. There are a number of things. It makes students eligible for scholarships in a different category. So it really is about more than high school.
I'd like to just really track that figure and see if we can get a true figure out of it for the district. 'Cause I know one time several years ago, we had more Title I students per capita than any other district in the county.
I believe that.
We still do. I mean, I haven't heard the numbers this year, but I know we're about to go to a meeting where they'll probably discuss that.
That's right.
But last year, District 1 actually covered the top 5 seats.
That's
So
right.
including
Right.
Hillsborough, all the schools here. So, I mean, it's still true. Of course, we'll see the new numbers. but-
I'm really anxious to see us do that because that'll help a lot of kids, if they're not eating during school, they're not eating
You're right about that.
in the summertime. So that would be great to know. How much is in the school fund?
The school facilities tax? Well, we still have the payment to the library. I'm sorry, can you hear me?
You go ahead.
But the fund balance is in the neighborhood of $477,000.
We didn't do anything last year, did we?
The library.
I'm sorry.
For the schools.
No, we helped on this program.
My recollection is that you purchased T-shirts last year for the Fairview One program. That's correct. And I believe that was approximately $3,000. I could be wrong.
So what was the balance? I'm sorry.
477,000.
With that in mind and what it's going to go for, I'd like to make a motion to approve the request.
I'll second further the discussion. I do want to point out that all these students will typically go to the summer school program. They've been, when you say you've invited them, you've invited them to summer school, and you've invited them to be in the program. So it also helps parents. A lot of times kids that need summer school will not get to go to summer school because if it was a half day,
That's correct.
that, you know, they have trouble picking up the kids. So I just knowing enough about this, wanted to point that out, that it also helps as a service to the parents that maybe would not be able to send their kid to summer school because of their work schedules.
Well, and if I may add, Mayor,
Yeah.
when I say invited, that's just the high school spin on saying this is where you should be. The elementary students certainly have more, the elementary principals have they're a little heavier in being able to say, come, but for us, we have to spin it in any way we can to get these students in the door. So it was a marketing spiel when they come on Tuesday and they get their formal invitations, they get a golden ticket to come back. I mean, we're doing those things, but that all of our students, and I believe it's true for the elementary and middle school, they will all attend the academic summer school in the morning. And then they have what, among adults, we would say is the camp time that we know is academic. We know they're going to be doing academic work, but it's a break from that very traditional summer school. So all 200 students will be getting academic work as well. Yes, sir.
Just a couple, 3 questions, Dr. Orrier. What is the last day you would have to have an answer from us?
That's a very good question. I'm hesitant to answer it, Mr. Bissell, because we have a sense of urgency so that we know that if you are unable to fund it in full, or if you leave us with a difference in any way, that we need to go to other people. And so I think mid-April would be the spot that I would feel most comfortable, because we start this at the 1st of June. So this is for the 4 weeks of June. So to give us enough time to go to other funders outside of our city, or to go back to the school district and say our hands are tied here, we've got to make a decision that might mean we have to shorten it to 3 weeks or shorten it to 2 weeks. I think that would be pushing it.
But we do have a couple of weeks because we're in the middle of setting
I
up our
understand.
budget and looking at where we currently are to get us through the end of the fiscal year.
Absolutely.
Okay. Have you talked to Middle Tennessee? They have, their endowment program that they.
We have not. This came as a bit of a surprise to us. This foundation, they have asked us a lot of questions. They were a very good partner for us. And I don't think that we expected the full funding to be pulled away. So we frankly, we weren't looking. We shifted a lot of our Title I funds because it's the right thing to do, as I said. And we had kind of relied, frankly, on them partnering with us again. So we haven't looked at other organizations.
I would encourage you to talk to them. I was looking through the magazine we get from them each month.
Sure.
And they have a sizable amount of money in their
Okay.
balance that possibly they might be willing to give some of that.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. That's all I had, Mayor.
Mayor, if I can, just one more quick question, Tom. What did we come in under the original amount that we approved for the library? Seemed like it was 94 or close.
Yeah, I believe the original was right around a little over 90,000
It
and
came in at 60,
62.5 or 65,200, I believe.
about 25,000 under. Okay, thank you.
That's a good point. I mean, it is. We were planning on spending that much money. We did get a savings, so it might be a way. I do kind of agree with Commissioner Bissell that just after having our meeting this week, and then also we're having another meeting trying to figure out some things that we are going to need to do. If we could wait a week or two, it might help us have a clearer.
Well, that was going to be my suggestion, Mayor, is we're having another joint meeting next Thursday night with all of us again, and that we could bring it to discussion then, and that would meet Dr. Orrier's timeframes. But that way we'd have a chance to look at it and maybe talk about some of these issues. It's a good point about the library money and stuff like that, but I would like to see us defer it till we have a chance to discuss it at the meeting next week, and that would still.
2 weeks from tonight would be April the 16th when we would meet again and could vote, Dr. Orrier.
Yes, sir.
Mayor, could I ask her a question?
Sure.
Dr. Oyer, does Title I have any part of the IEP program?
No, sir.
Are there any IEP students that are part of these 200?
Absolutely.
And of those, are there any of them in the gifted part of IEP?
My inclination is to say no. Now, one thing that I didn't mention is that last year we had 13 students that we, as the high school folks, called counselors. And those students, I would guess, they are more of our high achieving students. So we very intentionally chose students who maybe were a little bit more in their shell. While they were academically solid, we wanted to see some character building, not in a negative way, but just really honing in on those skills. So we identified 13 of those students who led last year in hopes that eventually we'll be able to put them in paid positions, when we find $1 million, because this is going to be such a great program. So those students were our higher achieving kids, but of these 200 kids, these are really the students that we're looking at and saying, with all of our optimism and all of our hope, these kids are our most at-risk students in our 4 schools. So we're picking our 40 kids that at the high school level, we're going, we need to do something right now, or we might lose them in 2 years.
That was going to be my last question.
Yes,
was
sir.
What was the breakdown? Was it 50 per each school? But you just said 40 at your school.
I think we invited 50. I think each of us are inviting 50.
We actually sent our letters out and invited 60. Last year, we found that, from talking to Ms. Tidwell, it took a little while to get those 50 together. So we started at 60, but we're going to work back to 50.
And what I will tell you that I believe will happen, and I believe it fully just based on 1 year and the hubbub in the halls, this is a program that our kids want to come to. It's become a thing that they're saying, I don't know what's going on in the library right now, but I want in on that. And then the kids walk out, and these are, again, our most at-risk kids are walking out going, I just got invited to that Fairview One thing. So that is coming, and I believe because we are doing something so unique, nobody is doing a full cluster program like this, that we will be able to find organizations that we can go to and say, we need $500,000 to do this. We don't want to go to the Skirmerhorn, we want to go to Carnegie Hall. And we're taking our kids and doing those things. We just know we're in the building phase of that. I know that was a long-winded answer, Commissioner Johnson, sorry.
Thank you.
Any other comments, questions? Okay, do you want to amend the motion to wait, or would you like to vote as is?
I will, will that fit in your time frame? I understand the
Yes, sir,
discussion
we
part.
recognize that we are here on your doorstep, so
Then-
we're happy to give you 2 weeks to make it make sense for everything else going
I'll
on.
remove my motion to be amended to move it forward to the next meeting.
Okay, I'll second. I'll remove and then second.
Thank y'all.
Okay. Thank you so
Thank you,
much.
thank you all very much.
We appreciate what you do.
And if you keep up on the Title I things for me, I'm very interested in that.
Yes, sir, thank you.
Okay, I'm not so sure we have to vote, but we'll go ahead and since we got it going, I got a first and second. Any more discussion?
Just to defer?
Yeah.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries to defer.
Item number B, discuss and or take action on Greg Maloney as engineers for local subdivision. Frank? Ms. Maloney?
Thank you.
I'm sorry.
We've been asked to do something, and I want to run it through the board, and I'll give you a little bit of background. You're all familiar with Will Owen of our office. I tell Will and all our other employees at least once a month, Griggs and Maloney is good engineers, but we're terrible marketers. We just don't know how to market. So I tell them that to say we have to keep our clients happy. And we appreciate and enjoy working for Fairview, and we want to continue to work for Fairview for the next 20 or 30 years because it's hard for me to go get new clients, so I want to keep you happy. In our office, we have several people that are recognized as being pretty good at what they do. We have people that have written articles and made publications. We have people who give talks on a regular basis. We've given lectures at Tennessee Tech and Cookeville. We've given lectures at MTSU in Murfreesboro. In addition to that, we frequently get asked to be expert witnesses on engineering issues and lawsuits. we've been asked to be, come to arbitration, because both sides in the arbitration have agreed to respect our opinion on whatever they asked us for. So all I'm trying to tell you is we're generally recognized in the engineering field. In fact, we have done work for 18 other engineering companies. And it's unusual for an engineering company to hire another engineering company. But we've been hired by 18 other engineering companies, all of them bigger than us, because we're generally recognized as being pretty good at what we do, and I hope being honest and ethical. We've been approached by an engineering company in Nashville called Reagan Smith. It's my understanding they've been hired to be to work for the developer for a, I forget the name of the project. Brownland Farms. And they approached us and said, there's going to be a sewer system. It's going to be a step system. I think Will has explained that to you before. It goes through a septic tank, and it eventually goes into an irrigation system. It goes back into the ground rather than into a surface stream. And we've designed several of those. And Reagan Smith has hired us for other projects in the past, and they came to us and said, will you help us with this project in Fairview? And I said, we work for Fairview. And they said, we didn't know that. And I said, yes, we work for Fairview, and that may be perceived as a conflict, so we'll pass. We'll say no. And he said, well, Bill, we're going to do this system. Y'all have done several. You've worked for us before. You've done several. They all have done well. We trust you. We really wish you'd help us with this. And I said, we work for Fairview, and it might be perceived as an interest. No, thank you. You need to call somebody else. He said, will you at least ask them? So I said, okay, I'll ask them. So I started by asking Mr. Hall, and if he'd objected, would have stopped. But it's my understanding he checked with his staff, and they're comfortable with us doing that part, mostly because that part will not be reviewed by the city. The wastewater collection system will eventually belong to Dixon County Water Authority, so they will review it first. And then upon their approval, they will have to also be reviewed by the Tennessee Department of Environment and Conservation. So the city of Fairview is not in that chain of command for that review and approval of that part of the system. You will still be the review process for the streets and the drainage and the sidewalks, and hopefully we'll help you with that in our normal course of events as working for the Planning Commission. But they've asked us to do just the wastewater system only. So in the spirit of transparency, I'm here tonight. I've asked Mr. Hall if I could ask you tonight, and he agreed I could, and I appreciate you putting me on the agenda. I know it wasn't on the original agenda. But if one of you five has any question or any uneasiness, we'll just stop. We just won't do it, because we work for Fairview. We don't work for these other people. We'll work for them somewhere else. But I'm not going to choose. We work for Fairview, and we want to keep working for Fairview. So I'm sincere. If one of you just has this much concern, that's enough. We just won't do it. So,
Move for approval.
Second.
Okay, we have a first and second. Any discussion?
Larry?
Yes, if I could. I think Mr. Griggs is aware that I was made aware of this earlier, and he asked me what my opinion, well, actually I was asked what my opinion was by Mr. Humber. And I did some research on this, and I don't mean to put Mr. Griggs on the spot, but I'm going to satisfy myself, I'm going to have to, and for the board, I'm going to have to ask a couple of questions. Today I got the Rules of Professional Conduct from the State Board of Architectural and Engineering Examiners, and there's only two items in the section 0120-02-0.05 conflicts of interest that could in any way be applicable to this. Number 3 says, and they're short, so I'll just quote them for the minutes, the registrant shall not accept compensation, parentheses, financial or otherwise, parentheses closed, from more than one party for services on or pertaining to the same project unless the circumstances are agreed to in writing by all interested parties prior to the acceptance of such compensation. I think that one does apply, and I'll give you what my thoughts are on that and a request in just a moment. Let me go ahead and read number 7. The registrant shall not solicit or accept any contract from a governmental body on which he or a principal or officer of his organization serves as a member. Clearly that doesn't apply because no one, to my knowledge, from Griggs and Maloney sits on any board in the city of Fairview in any voting or decision-making capacity. They act much as I do, except in a different field, in an advisory capacity. Based on number 3, I would assume, will you be paid directly by the contractor to design this, or will you be paid separately?
It's my understanding we will be paid by Reagan Smith, who will be the engineer for the developer.
You'd be like a subcontractor to them?
Yes, sir.
I ask that only to let everyone know that if that's the case, it's not in any way trying to hide the fact that they're working on this facility, and I think it's to the benefit of Fairview. As he stated earlier, to my knowledge, the city of Fairview is in no way in the line of approving, questioning, doing anything regarding the construction of this facility. And I think it's probably our advantage because they have a lot of experience in this field. The bottom line is when this thing gets built, we want it to work. You don't want me out there designing the sewer facility. To follow that though, and I don't believe Mr. Griggs having a problem with this. If he does, he can so state. What I would like to see is, it says it would be agreed in writing, and I don't think in any way that what he's doing with that facility would be a conflict on the overall project, because they're not going to put sidewalks over it, and they're not going to put roads over it that they might be asked to advise the city about. But what I would like him to do is have his firm just prepare a short letter, what basically he said tonight, what they're going to be doing on this, and disclose that in writing as is required by his rules, that what they're going to be doing, and then bring that, give that to Mr. Hall. Let us prepare a response to that where the city doesn't have any problem with it and sign off on it, and also have him do it to the people that's going to be hiring him. That way you've got it up front before you ever start. If any question arises, he's got the agreement from both us and Regan Smith, and we don't have any problem. I don't see any way that you could have a conflict with this. But to keep the city safe and keep him safe, if both parties sign off on it, even if somebody perceives something as a conflict, then you've got the documentation that before anything happened, it was agreed to by the city, it was agreed to by the firm that hired him. And I don't have any problem with it. I'd just like to see him submit that, let us prepare an answer, and go from there.
And to me, as long as that documentation includes the restriction or anything else other than the septic system.
I prefer to call it a wastewater system. Yes, sir.
Wastewater system.
We'll be glad to do that, or if the city attorney prepare it, we'd be glad to sign it.
Well, I can prepare.
I think that would remove it all right there. 'Cause
I can prepare that and give you one that has a blank for Regan Smith. I can find who they are and all that stuff.
Okay.
And I'll just put down there, by whomever.
Okay.
And then we can present that to the board. We'll have it for the next meeting, and that won't hold you up with it.
No.
You'll get a formal approval, and everything will be open above board. I think it is anyway, but you've got proof that it is. And if somebody questions it, then you go prepare something that looks like, why'd you do it so late?
Any other discussion? Well, my thoughts originally is, yeah, this could be a conflict, but really after knowing exactly how this works and what Dixon Water, and they're taking over, and you would hate any time, perception means a lot sometimes, and you would not want somebody to be able to come back and say, or make us liable, but it's really never going to be our system. It's going to go to Dixon Water. They're responsible for inspecting it. And, when you take that into fact, and then to think, it's going to be nice actually to have somebody that is experienced and, that is going to look out for the best interests of Fairview. It's not just about making money. That makes it even easier to, accept and think, give approval on. So, yes.
Mayor, if I may, I just have a couple questions. As I understand it, you would be representing the company that's developing the property in the capacity of doing the step system. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
And the only part of the project that you would be representing the city on would be sidewalks, gutters.
Everything
The
else.
other normal review that we do for the planning commission.
So if a conflict arose between the city and the developer due to that work that was being performed, where would that leave your firm?
We'd be our job to enforce your subdivision regulations or advise you to enforce them.
Despite you also having a relationship with the developer
Oh, yes.
in another capacity?
We would consider ourselves to be working for Reagan Smith, the engineering company.
That's what I thought. They're not working for the developer. They'd be working for them as a subcontractor, and his own regulation says that if we agree and they agree, even if you had a conflict, now I don't see where it could get one, because I don't see what they normally do for the city ever getting over into the wastewater system. But if you did, you've got the agreement for the people that go to do that, and that's all that the law requires.
Okay.
Because I looked those up this afternoon, and I'll be happy to prepare the agreement. You won't need to vote on it. If Mr. Hall authorizes it, I'll prepare it, and then you bring it in, and you would need to approve it.
Mr. Crutcher, I'm sincere. If you aren't comfortable with it, we'll just stop.
By no means do I want to question whether or not some action that's going to be taken by your firm is or isn't ethical. That's not my job. I think that's a decision that you guys have to make. I just want to make sure that if there is some issue that arose between the city and whoever is doing the other work there, not the step system, but the other work, that just want to know where your firm's loyalty would lie at that point, hypothetically, if there was a dispute that arose.
I think we've already demonstrated through the planning commission, we're willing to stand up and point out errors and conflicts, and we've gone through some tough times with you already, and that we're still there.
See, that wouldn't arise in this situation, because if a conflict arose between us and the developer on something about the roads or the curbs and gutters or, the road base, this type of thing, that wouldn't involve Reagan Smith at all. So he wouldn't have a conflict in that case. I can't imagine where you'd ever get a conflict, but if it did, it would be outside the scope of what he's doing with Reagan Smith, and his conflict would be between the city and Reagan Smith and us.
Who is the party besides Regan Smith? So I'm trying to wrap my mind around who all the parties are here.
Walden Group.
I have no idea who the developer is.
It is
Walden Group.
and then they've hired,
They've hired the Reagan Smith Company for engineering
Yes.
services.
And then his action would be probably, if they had a problem, it'd be between Reagan Smith and the developer.
Gotcha.
The only way we'd get into something would be between the city of Fairview and the developer, and then
I understand that.
just out of curiosity, how many of these systems have y'all been responsible for doing the designs for? I know y'all do a lot of work in Rutherford County and
5 or 6, if I remember right.
it didn't have anything to do, we got you.
All right, sure.
Okay, any more discussion?
Mayor, if I could ask one question.
Sure.
Mr. Griggs, when our attorney spoke a moment ago, he was talking about the possibility of you preparing the letter. You stated that you would like him to do it and then you would sign it. That's going to cost the city some money. Would you be willing to pay for whatever it costs him to prepare that document?
Oh, sure.
Thank you, sir.
price just went up.
I know, I was gonna say, is he gonna charge us?
I imagine if you did that, he could charge us something too, so we need to
Hey.
keep it all fair.
Bill it
That was
to
a
the
joke.
engineer.
I know.
Okay, if we have finished our discussion, we have a first and second, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
That would bring us to item C.
Discuss or take action on the Finance Committee budget execution recommendations for the remainder of the fiscal year. Commissioner Bissell.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I will defer to the CFO and Ms. Brooks to make the presentation.
Thank you. I'm going to defer to Ms. Brooks, our chairperson.
Yes.
Thank both of you very much.
Okay, hang on one second. Commissioner Johnson had recommended, it's a great idea. If you need to leave, feel free. Yeah, we know you have a long commute.
I know you didn't want to. We've got a long drive.
That's gonna be charged.
We got to talk about you. Go ahead. No, I'm joking.
That's gonna be charged.
You're going to miss the good part, Miss Brooks. No, go ahead.
The Finance Review Committee met with the BOC Tuesday night and to discuss our financial status for the rest of the year. And we basically have three problems. We're projecting to spend around $200,000 more than we're going to bring in. Our unassigned deficit will be around $500,000, and that creates a cash flow problem. Legally, we are required to fully fund all restricted funds, which includes the state street aid, facilities tax, and drug funds. The facilities tax and drug funds are in an account of their own, and they're accounted for separately. The state street aid is the problem. We agreed to the following solutions. The city staff is going to make all the cuts that they can for the next 3 months, which we estimate to be between $20,000 to $60,000. And they've already started doing that. So that is the only one that begins immediately. Around the middle of May, we will see where our actual numbers. And if necessary, we will charge the street staff salaries and benefits to the state street aid account, the park staff to the park fund, and one policeman to the drug fund. And since the salaries and everything has already been paid, this will just change the fund balances. When we left the other night, we thought we had it figured out that we would be to zero in our unassigned balance, but that is not the case. We will be $235,000 in the negative, less anything that the city saves in expenses between now and then. If necessary, after we've done all that, we could possibly transfer money from the tree fund, but that would be our last resort. We are proposing to sell the property on Deer Ridge Road and the out parcel on Dice Lampley Road. If these properties sell, and we know that could be a slow process, the proceeds will fully fund our accounts and the remainder will go into reserves. Our request I don't think you have to take any action tonight on anything other than to approve the plan, but we do ask that you approve for the city manager to get appraisals on the property. Or he may have estimates now, I'm not sure.
I do have estimates.
Okay.
The property at Deer Ridge, somewhere around $120,000. The property at Dice Lampley, somewhere around $250,000. That was from a local real estate person that I trust very highly, and so, but being that short a notice, that's the best I can do in the meantime.
So I'm not sure what the process is now that you charge him to get a formal appraisal, or we go to the bid process, we set it up. I'm not sure what happens now. Or if you've had time to think about it and decided you're not going to do that at all.
Could you repeat, you said we were actually going to be more, we wouldn't be at zero like we left the meeting, and these steps would bring us at zero. What are you thinking we're going to?
We're going to wind up probably around 200,000 short.
And what made the difference? I mean, why?
I think it was all in how we were going about. We combined several ways of looking at it and got lost in, or I got lost in the weeds, or I might have been able to pull us out. I guess I'm getting too old. You were trying to address the deficit for the year and the deficit for the street aid and something else. I went back and listened to it. But then you took the money to fully fund the operating account. We would have needed $700,000. And you started with the $500,000, and then you counted the money that's still in there twice. We just got confused.
So, as we left it the other,
I attached,
okay.
and I could still be confused. Y'all can look at it and,
So the negative 239,000, that's what you have here in the line, total operating account.
239,000 is what we're going to have in the account, and we need 472,000 to make the school facilities tax.
So that 239 is not using the 100,000 in parentheses in the park fund, or it is using it?
It is using it. If you took the 152,000, the 100, and the 35 that's all in the negative, that's added into the unassigned fund of 287,000.
So even with the tree fund and
No, I did not take the tree fund.
No, I'm saying even if we had to use the tree fund at the end, we're still short. So if we don't sell the property, we're gonna have to,
We're still short, but we're only required to have the state street aid, which after we made the changes, is only $2,500 left in there.
But we would be going in the next fiscal year in the unassigned fund, negative $235,000.
Yes.
but we'd be able to cover what we, on the books, what we would need to.
Yes.
But then we're right back here again.
No,
When
we're
we-
going to fix it next year.
Even going into the year with a negative $235,000, we're gonna be able to fix it.
We will fix it.
Well, no, we don't have a choice but to fix it, you're right, but I guess without taking other actions.
It'll be tough. It will be tough. But we will have suggestions next week, how we can arrive at those numbers.
You got to the negative $235,000 though, just by pulling money from the state street aid to pay the street department, the park fund to pay the park folks, and then one police officer out of the drug fund. Those were the only three
Yes.
things that you did in this.
And Tom has talked
Scenario.
to the chief and said that that probably can be 45,000. So that would be another 10, but I didn't change it since that's not what we talked about.
45 coming out of the drug fund?
Instead of
35.
30.
I should have firmer numbers on the departmental. I've got meetings with the department heads all day Tuesday. We're gonna hammer it out.
You talking about the budget cuts?
Yes.
The best case scenario, you guys think that's $60,000 under the best case scenario?
Yes.
That's pretty, yeah, I think we're gonna look at it we're gonna look at it hard and see what we can do.
And that's not reflected in the second page?
No.
What, other than those four things, the only other things that we talked about on Tuesday night
Was selling the
was selling the
properties.
property, right?
Was the official number around 120,000, the negative we started this year?
160.
160.
Well, but we did talk about the tree fund the other night. I didn't
Yes.
mention that.
And what does that leave
Now-
with the park fund with, once we do that? We've still put aside all the things we've committed?
Almost 40,000.
I understood we committed 55,000 to the park fund, and I think
That was
The
the
street fund, the street repaving was another 55,000. That's what I used in here. I did just notice that our total, grand total, is less than the school facilities tax. I don't know if that causes us a problem or not.
Yeah, say that again, I'm sorry. Process that. It did sound good. Let me hear it again.
Our total fund balances at the end of the year is in the neighborhood of 463,000, and what we're supposed to have in school tax is 472,000. I don't know what the auditors will say about that. And they may not say anything.
that's
And these may not be the numbers.
That's not the cuts and things that we're talking about.
Right. But, yes, if he made significant cuts, that would solve that
Balance
issue.
that part.
Yeah. You know, this is using projected 3 months. So, you know, that could go
Either way.
50,000 either way.
Is there any other assets that we have that we need to reconsider? That, like, you know, what about have you already sold all the old cars, all the equipment? It seems like there's a lot of cars in the parking lot, police cars.
Yes, ma'am, anything that would go back in the general fund, anything that's left over there now would go back into the drug fund once it's auctioned off.
A lot of what's still over there is pending litigation on those cases that we seized them, so that could take a little bit of time to get it done. I think that, didn't we see some Rolexes that are about to go up for sale? I'm serious.
All I know is hearsay. I don't know anything
You don't know
about
hearsay?
those.
Okay.
Rolexes or Folexes?
Rolexes. I think it was 4, something like that, 5.
Mayor, could I ask the attorney a question?
Sure.
Larry, from time to time, the city calls bonds on developers, and we have a separate account set up that has money in that account. Should we not use that full amount to stabilize the property that's in question? Where does that money go?
Would have to go back to the people that paid the bond, because if we don't use it, that money was what we thought it would take to do it. And part of that is if you don't use all that money, you know, you get finished with it, you're stabilized, you've got the approvals of whoever, TDEC or whoever requires. If there's anything left over, it has to go back to the people that paid the bond. And what they do with it, I don't know, but it'd have to go back to the institution that paid the bond. Excuse me, by the same token, if it don't have enough money to pay that, then we'll have to come up with that money as the city.
Okay, any more discussion for Ms. Brooks?
Next week's meeting scheduled when?
Thursday night at 7,
Joint meeting again?
yes.
Now, is this still to determine what we're going to do for this year, or are we going to start the process for next year's budget?
It's the process for next year's budget, because of where we are, without direction, we really can't prepare a budget.
Okay. Okay, and then on the budget this year, is the finances opinion, is the group as a whole, that you will only do next year's budget on what we actually brought in?
Yes. If what we bought in, we were going to use March through June of last year and go through February of this year because we had actual numbers. That might not be as accurate as our projections for this year, just simply because we were just getting started. we'll go back and look at it. We'll provide those numbers next week and see if we can justify which one we need to use.
So no
We
projection.
definitely will use July through March numbers because we have those already. And then we'll have to look and see if we want to use April through June of last year or our projections for this year.
Okay, so no businesses that just opened, we're just only hardcore what you have, and you may have to, because we rolled the money, or the first couple months, repeat again, what were you gonna do with that?
We originally said we would take the actual numbers from March through June of last year, because we wouldn't have those yet.
Okay.
Well, we now have March, but because Walmart had just gotten started in that first few months, we probably can show July through November how the numbers are going to be for April through June. This is how we got confused the other night.
Does get confusing. Okay, anybody else?
But we'll look at both sets of numbers and y'all can decide which one we should use.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, that will bring us to, let's see, D.
Discuss and or take action on bill number 2015-09, ordinance number 874, and ordinance to amend the City of Fairview, Tennessee budget for fiscal year 2014-2015 budget, i.e. the police ATV from drug fund. Commissioner Massell.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Just a couple of things. First of all, I submitted this on behalf of Commissioner Crutcher, who will actually lead the discussion. And because I am a direct recipient of the use of that vehicle, I'm here to answer the questions, any questions you might have about it, but I will not be voting.
Commissioner Crutcher.
Move to approve.
Second.
Mayor, if I may, this is another ATV for use by the police department that will be purchased out of the drug fund. I repeat, it will be purchased out of the drug fund. There is money there, that's a restricted fund. This is a use that is allowed, and it's going to be used by the police department not only in the park for the rangers, but also for search and rescue type efforts and various other police functions, probably the parade, I'm sure, various other things throughout the year. But that's what the purpose of this is. If you recall, we had 2 ATVs in the park, one of which broke down completely and inoperable. We just purchased a ATV from the park fund for use by the programs department of the park. But that still leaves the rangers with the remaining ATV that I think there are problems with as well, or there are a lot of, you may be able to help me on this.
Yeah, the issues are, it's really been converted. It was bought out of a grant 4 years ago and was never really a Ranger vehicle. It was bought, but it's not set up for that. It's the maintenance department has taken it over, and it's really not in real good shape. And so to count on it to be used in a situation would not be prudent on our part. So we really don't use it. The Rangers haven't used it for the last since we could get back out there, because it's just the maintenance department has got it and using it, and that's what they intend to use. It was theirs originally, and we just kind of piggybacked off of it. Ours is broke. The green Gator that we use is gone.
So the one that you guys had been using was actually a Parks Department?
Yes, was paid for with a
Vehicle.
Parks Department grant, and we probably shouldn't have been using it in the first place. But
So that would be the vehicle. I think that the Programs Department is going to solely use the new vehicle, not the Parks Maintenance Department or staff or whatever that's designated as, but they would be using the vehicle that the Rangers have used in the past.
Correct.
and this will be a new vehicle for the Rangers that's purchased from the drug fund. The total transfer will be $12,000. Part of that is the vehicle itself, and then part of that is the equipment required to put on the vehicle. And I'll tell you, my take on it is this is something that the police have requested. It's coming out of a restricted fund, the drug fund, the money's there. If this is a use that they feel like that they want to spend this money on, then I'm not opposed to it.
What use would the street department have for a gator? Just out of curiosity, since it was brought up.
Street Department,
You said it would be the current gator that we would
Parks
be.
Department. I'm sorry, did I say streets?
Yeah.
I didn't mean, I apologize. Parks Department,
Okay, so
Parks
we're,
Maintenance.
parks maintenance, okay, okay.
The program staff is using the new golf cart. It's two-wheel drive, and it's really not suitable to be used out there, and it was bought with Bowie Park funds and should not be used by the Rangers at all. The park maintenance vehicle, like I said, is got several hours on it. We have some transmission issues with it. It's not really the transmission, it's something to do with the differential, but it's been converted to maintenance use. For instance, this week they're using it to spray pesticides and fertilizer and stuff like that. So it's rigged for that, and it's really, hopefully, if we confine it to one group's use, that it'll last longer than it's going right now, where it's been used by 2 or 3 people. And then we've just basically gone to walking some of the trails, but some of the trails we just haven't been patrolling because we don't have a vehicle to get out there on them. But it's not going to be used just by the Rangers in the park. For instance, we had the lady with the dementia that walked off. You know, we're going to outfit it to be able to use with spotlight and stuff like that we could use in a search and rescue, or when we had the meth house to, you know, convey people back and forth, back up in there, and where we couldn't get vehicles and firemen and that sort of thing. So it's going to have a multi-use to it. Like the fire department has one that's outfitted with a gurney for transporting people in and out, that sort of thing.
Yeah, and I apologize, my question was not really for whether or not the police department could use it, but.
If I misspoke, I apologize.
Oh, I may have misheard it, but either way, we can see the
And
minutes.
Chief's here, but he and I have talked about, we plan to purchase one that is of the same model and type that they have in the fire department, and what we hope to do from this point on is to buy accessories to it that we could then use on either vehicle. So, for instance, would be if a small blade that could be put on there that we could use to clean the concrete in front of the fire trucks, but we could also use it to clean City Hall and stuff like that. Our current equipment is for the streets, but it would give us some maneuverability in tight areas. But by buying the same type of vehicle, winches, things like that, we will be able to share on each vehicle without having to replace them.
Yeah, I was just trying to think, could we sell something? That's the only reason I was going for the extra. I'll take 5,000, 2,000, you know.
Well,
But if we're using them all is what I was getting to.
They do plan to, at some point in time, try to get salvage value for the one that's broke down. We don't have any idea what that'll be, so we don't know. But as far as this is concerned, this becomes like a police car, and when it's sold or traded, it'll have to be put back in the drug fund, just like that.
Okay, any other discussion? We got a first and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Item number E, discuss and or take action on interlocal cooperation agreement with 21st Judicial Drug Task Force. Commissioner Johnson.
Move for approval.
Second.
Larry, do you want to go, or were there any changes?
No, I reviewed it, and the only change that I found that needed to be added was they had the title incorrect for they had Mr. Hall as the mayor. And I think Ms. Brandon made that change. Let the mayor be who she is.
Don't change me.
Good job.
Okay, any other discussion? I would just like a little information on what's bringing this on, whoever's, let's see, who's on this. Commissioner Johnson.
I'm on it. As far as I know, it's just renewing the interlocal agreement.
It's renewing an interlocal agreement that was very old. It says it's perpetual, but you need to bring them up to date. And the best way to do that is do a new one. And I can assure you, and I think Mr. Humber and I talked about this, for the amount that we're paying for picking up animals, we're getting a good deal. We could not create a department to pick up the animals and store them and, you know, have a place to, you got to clean up and meet such and such standards for the amount they're charging.
Yeah.
What does picking up animals have to do with DTF? I'm confused.
Oh, I'm sorry, we had another one.
I was like,
I was thinking of the
This
one
one's-
that's
this
pending
one's
that
the-
hadn't gotten there yet, thank you.
This
I
was
was
the
speaking
21st
out of turn, this is
task
interlocal
force.
agreement.
The other
with
one's
the
what we
task
pay the
force.
county to come out and do
And
rabies or whatever.
we've also got the other one that you'll see, not tonight, but later, and I was thinking about it. This one, like I said, I don't see any problem with it. That's where you get some of your money for the drug fund and all this stuff. It's just allowing us to participate in it, allowing the drug fund people to dispose of property that was bought for the headquarters and this type of thing, and it is just a continuation of what we have. And I apologize for getting off and picking up the stray animals, because I was working on that the other day, and it just occurred to me, that's also an interlocal agreement, but just scratch what I said before about the animals. We'll withdraw that.
I'm not opposed to this, but to what capacity are we actually participating in this? Because I had heard that they sort of were out of Fairview altogether, DPF.
Well, what we just did a couple of Sundays ago was,
Didn't have anything to do with it. If I could add
Go
something
ahead.
to this. The decision was made to withdraw from the active enforcement out on Interstate 40 approximately 2.5, 3 years ago, because we were no longer getting any return on our investment of 2 police officers and 2 cars. We pay $5,000 a year fee to participate. And what we get from that is we get attorneys, district attorneys from that district that are drug specialized. And they help us in the preparation of the case. And then if the task force comes into our community, then we are invited to participate. But we do not share with revenue, say, if you've seen the cars out on Interstate 40, they stop and they find $10,000 in marijuana. We're no longer participating in that section because we do not provide units to do that. We do our own drug units with Hickman County, and that's what Commissioner Johnson was referring to. However, the attorneys to help in that, help us get the warrants, help us do those type things, are provided by the judicial district. And they do occasionally provide us with physical officer support in those types of things, buys and stuff like that. So we pay a fee of $5,000 to participate. Some years we get that back from them, some years we don't. But it's mainly we're paying for their expertise and legal advice and assistance in the prosecution of the drug cases now. We do our own drug work.
Don't they also go to the forfeiture hearings?
Yes, they go with us, they help us with the forfeiture processes and those type of things.
You do share in those.
Well, if
it's
happened
here.
in our jurisdiction.
Right.
If it did not, then we do not.
Right. Of course, you wouldn't be interested in that anyway if it wasn't in your jurisdiction. but-
Used to, when we were actually providing 2 officers to the task force, if it happened in Humphreys County, we still got a percentage of it, but we
Right,
don't
as long
provide
as
the
it's
officers anymore.
In 21st jurisdiction.
Right.
But if they seize a car here, they go to those
We
forfeiture
get part of
hearings,
that
and then
if
it's
it's in our
sold, and you do
jurisdiction.
share in that.
It's a very interesting conversation to watch them divide the stuff up.
the thing a couple of weeks ago, we headed that up, but the 23rd district assistance, not the
23rd
21st.
participated.
That's right.
Hickman County was the primary because the actual forfeitures and the cash and the 24 pounds of marijuana was seized in Hickman County. that's working very well. The number of those properties you see out there are waiting on the forfeiture hearings.
Well, I've never really understood why we didn't provide an officer. I know that we pulled them back, but we do miss out on potential money. And the drug fund difference, we used to buy a lot more with the drug fund because it was more. Now, we finally built it back up. But, you know, if we're paying this money, you know, how much work, you know, nobody on a task force stays at the task force all the time. Like, a lot of times on task force, you give a certain amount of time to that and you spend so much time with your agency. Now, unless this task force run different, but I know, you know,
When we
the
were-
violent crimes one.
They have
you-
full-time positions.
Yeah, when we were participating, we had 2 officers out there full-time, 16 hours a day, 5 days a week.
Is that the requirement?
Yes, if you're gonna be a full participating member, you basically detail them 2 of your officers. And so we had gone a couple of years without any return on our investment. And, we are, I hate to speak, for Chief Sutton or Chief, Harris with the actual, or Lieutenant, Dunning with the actual, numbers, but as best I can recall, I know that when the sheriff's department came in here and we had that big bust, we had an additional bust of ourselves of 30 people that somehow the newspaper didn't pick up. And then I know that we've picked up that 24 pounds of marijuana, and I know there's ongoing investigation on that. We have seen, from a standpoint of law enforcement, I think if they were here, they would tell you that we have seen a lot more benefit to the city and making the city a less drug issue place than any of the work we were doing on the highway, even though when we first started, it was very lucrative because we were the only people doing it. Now you can't drive from Nashville to Memphis without seeing about every 3 miles, seeing one of those Suburbans parked in the middle of the interstate. So it just became an economic reality to us, but we do need their expertise in the drug cases because that's what Ms. Helper and her folks over there count on those people to help in those regards. So that's basically what we pay for.
Okay, any other discussion? I just feel like it's a lot of money, but I'd like to know some statistics on how many cases they help us with and, you know, if it's bang for the buck. But knowing that this is just, you know, we're just going back and continuing what we're doing. But I don't, you know, still without any facts or having a police officer here to explain it, it just, I don't know, it seems like a lot of money to pay. Either we need to be on it or not, but. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Item F, discuss and or take action on ordinance 876, an ordinance to amend the City of Fairview, Tennessee's Municipal Code, Title 13, Property Maintenance Regs, Chapter 4, Tree Planting and Protection, Section 13-404, Duties of the Tree Commission, Section 13-409, Community Tree Recommendations of the Tree Commission. It's in my name. I'll turn it over to Attorney.
Okay, what, this is presented to the board tonight, for first reading. What it does is it amends, municipal code sections 13-404, 13-409, 13-411, 13-419. There is going to have to be, and I received the information from, Mr. Sutton, and this was my interpretation of it. The 13-404 contains 10 paragraphs. Paragraphs 8 and 9 were omitted. I me, I misunderstood that. Paragraphs 8 and 9 will be added back to the ordinance before it comes for you the second time. The ordinance is fully amendable up to the second reading. It won't change the capital because it's just putting back 2 paragraphs that explain some details. 13.404, the section 1, I'll give these quickly because before the second reading, I will put out a summary of what the ordinance does, and you'll get it in advance, but I'd like to explain it so we can get it on reading 1 tonight, and then I'll make the amendments. Well, the 2 that I already know of, and anything else that the board wants me to. Paragraph 1 was, initially was to review hearing applications and determine if they should grant the permit or not, and it will be amended to say that the recommendations, it basically just changes who those will be sent to. They'll be sent to the Director of Codes for final determination. Number 2, changes is the appeal, permit would be passed to the Board of Commissioners. That's stricken so the Director of Codes will make that final decision. Number 3 is tree plan, changes in that goes to, if we sent to the Planning Commission, the recommendation of the Tree Commission be sent to the Planning Commission. Paragraph number 4 was to be stricken. Paragraph number 5, which will be the new number 4, stays as is. Paragraph 6 is removed. Paragraph number 7, just put some explanatory language in it. Paragraph, and actually it was combined with number 8. Paragraphs 8 and 9 will be placed back in the original ordinance. 13.49, the community tree plan. They changed who the jurisdiction of that is, or assigned jurisdiction for that tree plan to go to include all the trees except the ones in the jurisdiction of parks. 13.411, basically trees on private property changes. Recommendation of the tree commission will be made to, with the consent of the arborist, will be sent to the codes department. The final decision as to removal of any trees they recommend will be with the director of codes. 13.419 is appeal from unfavorable communications to the tree commission. Tree commission makes recommendations. They make those recommendations to the director of codes or the planning commission, and once they render their final decision, the recommendation, they can appeal that if it's appropriate to the city manager or the board of commissioners. There also is a provision in the new one that says after they go to the board of commissioners or the city manager, if the person or entity pursuing this wants to appeal, of course, we can't deny them the right to appeal to the court system on a common law writ of certiorari. I do want to get the board's direction on one thing. Paragraph number 10, it does change the meetings. Instead of them having regular meetings, they will meet as this was revised at the call of the Planning Commission chairman or the director of the Codes Division. That's fine. It doesn't make any difference to me how you do it, but I just wanted to bring to your attention, there's no provision in this meeting for the tree board itself to call a meeting. If they can get a meeting called by either having it set up by the Planning Commission chairman or the director of codes, but I just wanted to bring to your attention, do you want to give the commission the opportunity to call its own meeting upon some contingency, the chairman of the tree board and 2 members of the board, or 3 members of the board, or do you want to leave it like it is?
I think it's fine like it is, because they still have an option to ask for a meeting. Those individuals.
They can get a meeting
That's me.
called. I mean,
Yeah.
I just wanted to be sure that we didn't do like I did, skipped over one, or maybe that didn't occur to somebody.
Everybody agrees on that.
Well, I don't agree on any of it, actually. I have a problem. I don't know why we're hashing it. Really don't know what this is stemming from, but this was put in place for a reason. And we pretty much have done exactly what some of y'all have mentioned, just besides giving them a name and letting them make recommendations. We've taken any of the process away, and the process was put there for a reason. So I really am leery of why we would totally eliminate this process.
I can't answer that.
Me neither.
I was directed to prepare it, and I did.
Who directed you to prepare it?
Well, my information came from the sponsor.
Okay, so Mr. Sutton, was that you?
Yes.
Okay, what's your thought process? You're on the,
And I've already discussed it with him, and it's simplifying things. And what's been happening is it's been going back and forth to who's got the response. I'm sorry, Mayor.
We need a motion to approve
Okay,
before we.
discussion. Move to approve.
Second.
okay.
So I think it eliminates some steps that we've been going back and forth on, getting reports on, example, where do we stand with Walmart? Where do we stand? Those answers don't come back. The tree board really has nothing to do with that once it's been assigned over to the codes department. And for us to have meetings on that meetings to tell them what they're going to do, a lot of it's just become unnecessary. And it's been a hindrance in some things as far as being timely and getting the results that we need. That's their responsibility, not the tree board's responsibility.
I would say that typically in the past, we utilized their opinions and their help and staying on top, following some of the issues, making sure we're following through. I don't know why we would all of a sudden think it's a hindrance now, because they're trying to do their job. And it has benefit to the city. I mean, we've seen, how beautiful that some of our, new commercial looks. We put these codes and regulations in place, and this is a board to help regulate these. It's doing its job, and it's working. Yes, please.
Thank you. I have a question about specifically 13404 duties of the tree commission, which appears to make up the bulk of the changes in the ordinance as amended. I'm looking at the ordinance as it exists now, and it looks like the last time it was amended was in September of 2010. So I guess my question is to Vice Mayor Sutton, why was it necessary in September of 2010 as amended then, and it's not necessary now, or what's changed, I guess, since 2010?
It's just the growth in the city and the way that the planning commissions have to work with, example, Walmart, Mabco, Publix, all these things right here that are direct responsibilities of that department, the codes department. Once we set up how many trees per unit that we need to be put back in there, they have those scales also. So some of these things have changed when you come back to it. So that's the reason I asked for it.
Would the growth of the city not make it more necessary to have this now versus then?
Well, to me, not necessarily, because the location we're going to have the growth that's going to be in. We're not talking about subdivision. We're not talking about private land whatsoever. This is city streets and so forth. And if I'm not mistaken, Frank, the arborist that we have now in the books would still do the same job that he's doing at this time as far as checking things out and making sure it is. He would just report directly to the codes department.
All right. Larry, I have some questions for you because I want to make sure that I understand exactly what we're changing. 13404, we are changing subsection 1 to take away the tree board, I guess, is the the person that or the group rather, that has the ability to, let me read the ordinance as it exists, to grant or deny permits regulating the planting, pruning, maintenance, and removal of trees. Is that right? They're just now going to be making recommendations as instead of being the final arbiter of whether or not those things happen.
They were never the final arbitrator, it's just making it clear that it is, they're an advisory board, not a legislative board,
And we want that to
nor are
continue.
they a quasi-legislative board.
Well, the ordinance as it exists says to review and hear applications for and determine by vote the granting or denial of permits. So that
Right,
sounds
but-
like they have some authority making,
They could, but that can be appealed,
right, well, maybe I misspoke. I didn't mean final.
because the appeal, as it stands now, the appeals from the decisions of the tree commission would be to the Fairview Board of Commissioners.
So now they will not vote on granting or denying those
No,
permits.
they
Who will
make,
do
they'll
that
make a
now?
recommendation, which is
To who? The board of,
to the codes director.
to the codes director?
Yes, that's what the last sentence in 13401 says. Said recommendation to be provided in writing with specifications to the Director of Codes Division of the City of Fairview for final determination.
So now, instead of having a group of individuals to make this decision, we're going to let one individual make that decision.
That's what the code would be as it says, yes.
And if they don't agree with what that one individual, and I mean they, I'm talking about whoever is bringing this before the commission, or in this case, the codes director after recommendations by the commission, if they don't agree with what he does, then where does it go?
Goes to
Appeal process.
13419, that says that the tree commission issues owner recommendations to the Director of Codes and or the Planning Commission. There is no necessity for an appeal process for their recommendation. Once the Director of Codes Division or the Planning Commission renders their decision, their action can be appealed to the city manager if it's appropriate, or to the Board of Commissioners, which would have ended up to start with under 401. And I also added in there on the new one, you can't deny anybody an appeal to Chancery Court on a writ of certiorari.
All right, and then,
So the appeals process is preserved, it's just in another section.
and if we move to subsection 2 in the existing code, or ordinance rather, that appears in the amended version to be stricken completely. Is that right?
Now, section 2 is not stricken, it would be to review all tree protection plans proposals relating to subdivision development and site development plans for submission to the Planning Commission, as it is right now. All other tree commission recommendations shall pass directly to the Board of Commissioners for approval.
In my packet, that's
Yeah, but
That's lined out.
the whole thing's not stricken. First sentence is not stricken.
It is in mine. I must not have the right version.
That wasn't the one I received.
I must not have the right version. The one that I was provided via email is completely taken out. So what sentence is left in there?
The only thing that's done to the one that you've got, to review all tree protection plan proposals relating to subdivision development, site development plans for submission to the Planning Commission. Then the new was added with recommendations for review and decision. And the last sentence was stricken.
Can somebody get me that version? I can't possibly vote on something I don't even know what
That's
I'm...
what was 10D.
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 Got it.
If I could add something here. As I read it, it does two things. First thing it does is as we discussed in our workshop, it puts the tree commission in line with all the other commissions in terms of their authority. There were items in the tree commission that they actually made the final decision for the city in terms of issuing permits, cutting trees down, those types of things. And it basically changes them from the final decision maker to recommending to the Planning Commission or the Director of Codes, who are already acknowledged decision makers within the city. So their function is essentially the same, it's just they just don't have the final approval. They can't say, cut this tree down. They have to recommend to either the Planning Commission or the Director of Codes to cut this, that this tree should be cut down. And as I said, it puts them in line. That's no different from any of the other commissions in terms of authority. So it really doesn't change that. And it clearly articulates that a reporting channel to where they either report in certain areas to the Planning Commission, which is part of the planning process, the tree review process, or when they are dealing with a codes situation, they are giving their recommendation to the Director of Codes. And that's the only real changes I see about it. And the frequency of meetings, they don't have to meet every month if they don't want to. They don't have a reason.
By giving it to the Director of Codes too, they also are the only entity in this chain of enforcement that can actually write a citation. Tree Commission has no authority to write a citation.
I'm just trying to wrap my mind around it here. So under the existing statute, if the Tree Commission, which they have the authority to do under the existing ordinance, says to someone, cut this tree down, and whoever that person is doesn't like the recommendation or vote or order of the Tree Commission, then it comes to the BOC. Is that right? Under the new version, they recommend cut the tree down. It goes to Mr. Humber for approval. If they don't agree with what Mr. Humber says, they being whoever's being told to do whatever it is that they're being told to do, it comes to the Planning Commission.
And then after they get finished with them, in the next another section, it would go to the Board of Directors, Board of Commissioners.
Board of Commissioners.
Yeah, I can say one other thing. There are some entities out there who make quasi-legal decisions that once their decision comes down, it's final except for an appeal to the Chancery Court. Board of Zoning Appeals doesn't come back to the Board of Commissioners. The other commission that very seldom ever meets is the one that does the variances, not zoning variances, but I'm trying to think of the Board of Adjustments and Appeals.
They're boards.
Right.
It sounds
They're
like
not commissions.
That's correct.
This is not the tree board. This is the
Right.
tree commission.
Right.
And it has the same effect as the park commission. The park commission cannot do anything but make recommendations.
Right. No commission does, but I just wanted to just throw out for general information.
It sounds like we're adding steps instead of taking steps away. Instead of streamlining, we're adding steps to the process. Why couldn't or can, if under the existing ordinance, which we'd have to change it to say the Planning Commission, but if someone disagreed with what the Tree Commission voted on in order to be done, why couldn't they appeal to the Planning Commission? Why couldn't we amend it to say that the appeal goes to the Planning Commission instead of the Board of Commissioners? Wouldn't they be more suited to make those decisions than the Board of Commissioners anyway?
Well, as it stands right now, it goes to the Codes Director, then to the Planning Commission, and then to on another section, to the Board of Commissioners. But it doesn't matter to me.
Under the existing statute, it does? Or ordinance, excuse me. I'm going to say statute. I say it all the time.
No, you're talking about the ordinance in section 419, I believe it is. 419, once the Director of Codes Department or the Planning Commissioners renders their decision, and that depends, their action may be appealed to the City Manager or the Board of Commissioners, whichever is appropriate. It more likely would go to the Board of Commissioners because there's few instances when it could conceivably go to the City Manager, but then it would eventually come to the Board of Commissioners. That was just what I was instructed to change it to.
I understand. When we had the meeting with all of the various boards and commissions, I guess a couple months ago now, one of the things that I mentioned at that meeting, at least, was that if we started to change any of these ordinances that affected those various commissions of order, anything that came out of those, anything that we were going to do as a BOC would be discussed in that particular commissioner board. And I'm not sure, now this is changing the duties of that particular commission. I don't know, has this been discussed at all with the Tree Commission?
No.
You can discuss it with whomever you want.
I understand that.
I think I was given a task to perform, and I tried to do that to the best of my ability.
This isn't an attack on you. I'm just trying to figure out where this is coming from. and what the purpose is.
It wasn't coming from me.
Well, I know it wasn't coming from you.
Over the last several months, we have had several developers that have not only called me and complained with how the city was treating them and/or the tree commission, but they have been in Mr. Hall's office, they've been in Mr. Umber's office, they have called on phones and said, look, we're just not going to deal with Fairview anymore, and it's all because of how they have been treated by the tree commission in particular, in coming to meetings and not having meetings. So I think this basically is going to streamline and give the codes director and/or the planning commission the ability to call the meeting, set the agenda, and move the city forward. Where Commissioner Basell spoke several months ago at the meeting you were talking about how things were supposed to line up and work, what their duties were, and I guess just what I just saw yesterday, they have something on their agenda coming up to rewrite an ordinance that's currently in there that we're going under right now. They're trying to rewrite it to what they want it to say instead of what we want it to say, and we're the people that vote on it.
Well, they certainly don't have that authority.
Well, it's on their agenda. So this right here is going to clean up the process, and the city, it gives more control to the codes department and the planning commission, which is who we want in charge of our developments.
In fairness to the tree commission, though, I'm familiar with the incident where we had developers come in. It was my understanding that those particular issues or items were not on the tree commission's agenda that night. It was my understanding in another situation that the developer did not get the necessary information to the city, management of the city, and the management get it to the tree commission so that they could properly evaluate whatever it was that was on their agenda. That was the issue. And if that's what happened, then I don't think we can point our finger at the tree commission and say, hey, you didn't have any right to take the stance that you did, at that meeting.
Except that that's not how we operate.
Who's we?
This board. We added school principals. We sat here earlier in the week for an hour listening to a non-agenda item. We, as a board, are trying to be very open and trying to allow people on an impromptu basis, if they have information they need from us, if they have information they share, we're allowing them to do that up here. I can't, in good conscience, say that a sub-board created by us is carrying out our wishes and our position as a Board of Commissioners if they're not doing the same thing. A guy drives an hour to be here. You don't have to pass a motion or do anything, but you certainly don't just turn him away because he wasn't on the agenda item, especially if he's wanting to invest money in your community.
I agree with you.
And so...
One of them drove 4 hours.
Well, and so my point is, I understand technically they were correct, because, I'm a rules follower, I get that. But what we're trying to do is to turn around what is the perception of some that we're not a very friendly place to do business with. And so my concern over that whole incident is not whether they were legally correct or not, it's what was behind that, because you can't talk to any of the 5 of us, and we're all encouraging of come up, ask questions, do things. And our track record is, as previously just stated, our track record is to allow that, to allow a variance of our procedures to hear what you have to say. So along those lines, I go back to when I read this, what I hear is 2 things. One, I hear it aligns itself with other commissions. They no longer have a decision-making role. They have their decision is what recommendation they're going to make. And then those things that are minor in issue, like can I cut this tree down out of my city right-of-way? That Frank makes the ultimate decision over that. That doesn't need to come to the Board of Commissioners for the 5 of us to decide whether or not you cut a tree down out of the right-of-way. That's codes. They're going to be more familiar. He has a staff to go out there and do that, and that's what item 1 does. The second one is when they review a plan, Well, when they review the plan, it needs to go back to the planning commission. And it is possible that the planning commission, who also has the variance authority, which the tree commission does not have, the planning commission could say, well, that's very good. Technically, they probably need to plant, or maybe they shouldn't cut this, but the planning commission can then negotiate to determine what's in the best interest of the city. That's what we pay them for. And so that's where I'm coming from. I don't see that it lessens their role. It changes their role from a approver sometimes to a recommender. But I think it streamlines the system. I think it's a pretty good ordinance, actually.
Well, I agree that if somebody drove 4 hours, they should have been added to the agenda, but from what I was told about the process, the whole thing wasn't really handled as it probably should have been from top down. And I agree that we as a board we apparently add things to the agenda too last minute, and sometimes there's things that we just have to do that on. Me personally, I would really have rather the principals have come 2 weeks from now and talk to us about what they came tonight and asked about because of the meeting we just had Tuesday night. There's nothing in the world that I would rather do than sit up here and vote to give those schools money. But I couldn't have voted on that tonight. And I felt sort of blindsided by it because, to be honest with you, I didn't realize that was even on the agenda tonight, that they were going to be here to talk. So I would rather that we not add things like that to the agenda. Just respectfully, we'll get you in here in 2 weeks so that we have time to give it the due deliberation that it deserves. And so I think I said at the meeting a couple months ago too, that what we do right up here trickles down to all these other committees, boards, commissions. And if we're doing that, we need to clean up what we do. That's how I feel about that.
Well, I have a couple things I would like to mention. One of the things that the codes director has been working on in the codes committee is cleaning things up to take liability off of him. So I don't understand if we've been working with the codes department trying to clean things up, make it clear for he does not have to make those decisions, why we would all of a sudden take that added pressure to have him as a final say or to have to make decisions on something. It doesn't make sense. We're spending, all this time trying to lessen the burden on our codes director. So that doesn't make a lot of sense to me. The other thing is, at the meeting that Commissioner Crutcher and others have referred to, I was at this meeting and also did all the tree board members receive they were CC'd on the email where there was plenty of time for us to contact the individuals and they did not have to drive, because there was email correspondence stating we did not have time to review and we cannot vote on this tonight without any information. So at that point, to me, it became the city's responsibility to contact the developer and say, this is what I hear. I'm not sure that we are going to be able to get you on the agenda, and left it where he would not have to drive. There's nothing going on right now that if we do the process correctly, that we shouldn't be able to get these developers through in a decent amount of time. There is a piece of paper that I know that they were updating. It was a result from the committee meetings that a developer's handed all the steps he needs to follow to go through the process originally, right? I mean, I've seen the form before. So when a developer comes in and says, what do I need to do in the city of Fairview, Codes Department and Frank are able to hand them a form, tell them what steps they need to take and when they need to do it. Where we run into the problem is where we try to get rid of the process. The process works, and it has for years. So I don't understand why we want to blame it on a group of volunteers that's volunteering their times and doing really what part of their job assignment was, that they're losing business. No, they're investing in their community and making it beautiful and trying to follow the codes that were laid out in front of it. So, when I understand that maybe that was embarrassing for some, for have a developer have to be turned away. But at some point, I don't think we can blame it all on the committee, because there was plenty of warning that the chair had concerns and the members did not have an opportunity. And it's not fair for people to vote on things that they haven't had an opportunity to look at and spend time. Because when we vote on things, we are, changing the direction of our community.
Mayor, you're right, half the blame was on city staff. There's no doubt about that. And what this does is it cleans that up, and basically Frank will be setting an agenda when it's needed, so all the information will be sent out to the tree commission at one time saying this is when the meeting is going to be and this is what it's going to be about, called by he or the chairman of the planning commission. And at that point, it tells the tree board, this is what it's going to be about. We have all the information ready to go, or we wouldn't be having the meeting. So it's going to, it clears it up, period.
I think one of the definitions of it clears it up to who reports to who. The last several meetings that I've been, almost every meeting, let me back and say almost every meeting, if not every meeting, Frank has been there, Wayne has been there to answer questions from the tree board about where do we stand on the trees at Walmart? Where do we stand on the trees at MAPCO? That has been kicked up to codes. That's their decision process. It has nothing else to do with the tree board at that time. And that's been almost every single meeting. You agree?
Yeah, it's been
And
on
it's
most
it's just double duty for him to come in there on something that's a recommendation, kick it up, it's done. It's his job to do that and follow up on it and see if it falls within codes or fine them or whatever we need to do with them. And I think it's a dual process that we're just overkilling. That's all I got. Thank you.
My support of it doesn't have anything to do with the one-time incident situation. I wasn't there, and I've heard from 1,000 different people what happened. It's philosophically, I think that any subcommittee of this board needs to at least be in alignment in terms of how they operate with our philosophy. And so, but that's something that's easily corrected. What I read in this that is important to me is this is a commission that is designed to make recommendations and do some reviews. And what I think the document does is I think it clearly articulates that that's their job, to review and make recommendation, and that sets forth who the deciding official will be. And that person has a higher calling or a higher level of responsibility than the tree commission. It's just like the park commission shouldn't be making final decisions about anything. We make recommendations. The paving of the road or the paving of the parking lot's a great example. I mean, if did that really need to come to the Board of Commissioners, or could you just let the Park Commission do that? I don't think we want to do that. I don't think committees and commissions are supposed to be making final decisions for the city. So that's the part of it that I'm really in support of. The other is I understand there's various points of views, but it does that. It sets them on the same plane as any other commission, and that's what I think is valuable about it.
And I could almost, if that was what was being presented, I could almost, accept, okay, yes, let's look at all these. But I feel like we haven't discussed this at the tree commission. We haven't asked what roles they feel is still important. I think we just come because in some of ways that we just don't like how this commission runs, so we're going to hatch it. And I feel like that, there might be things that we could change that would make the process or even go, but I just cannot support this because I've seen the value, not only because I was on the planning commissions prior to ever being a commissioner, and these process works, and they're here for a reason. And for us to keep throwing things out the window just because, we don't want it anymore, or we don't want a group of people having too much say. I think these groups these committees are put together as an opportunity to bring citizens in and allow them to invest in their government and be a part and help us make decisions that maybe we would miss.
I have one last thing, just quickly. Is not part of the function of the Codes Review Committee to also review the municipal code as well? Isn't that a function that we're reviewing, not just the planning or the zoning ordinance and the sub-regs, but we're also doing the municipal code as well?
Primarily it's zoning and.
Primarily it's just zoning right now.
And subdivision regulations and those things, but anything, we're really looking at anything.
Well, this would fall into that category, wouldn't it? Who all is on that? Who all is a member of that board, or committee, or whatever it's called? You don't have to get me. I mean, there's a BOC member, I guess, or who else?
It's 9 different people.
9 different people. I would like to refer this down to them to look at it.
Is that an amended motion?
Amended motion to refer this to the Codes Review Committee.
Second. We have a first and second, an amended motion. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
Okay. On the original motion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Nay. Motion carries.
Mayor,
Give me
I'll
one
have-
second for
I'll
me.
have those amendments for the
Huh?
for the next meeting.
What now?
I'll have the amendments to that ordinance for the next meeting.
Okay, thank you.
That was just the first read. We will have to,
That's correct. That was first read. There'll be a second, but I'll have to add those 2 paragraphs that my mistake that I left out that I thought were deleted.
Okay, item G, discuss and take action on budget development process. That's all.
I defer to Tom, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Commissioner Vassell. We had discussed in the Finance Review Committee a few months ago, and I apologize, I was hoping to get this to the board at the last meeting in March, but for whatever reason, ice storms or snow, but anyway, I think everybody, at least everybody I've talked to involved in the budget process felt like that the workshop system was flawed in many ways, and we felt like we wanted to come up with a way to streamline the budget process and put the big ticket items in front of the board, and then allow in a system and come up with a revenue number and the big ticket items like salaries and taxes, debt service, reserve funding, insurance, capital projects, and fixed payments, and get y'all to set those, and then take the revenue minus that to give an operating fund and give that to the directors and the city manager and the CFO, and let them work out what's left for their departmental budgets, where the Board of Commissioners didn't have to sit there and go through every line item by line item, how much paper we're buying, how much this. So anyway, I'm just gonna go through and read this, see if it makes sense. And I know this year it's gonna be a little different, but I think as we move forward as a city, I think this process may be what we need to, or something similar is what we need to be striving for. At the second meeting in March, the Finance Review Committee will present the BOC, the end-of-year revenue projection. This projection shall be used for the upcoming fiscal year's revenue budget. B, the Board of Commissioners will be presented with the following major expenditure items for approval. 1, salaries and taxes. 2, debt service. 3, stabilization plan, reserve funding. 4, insurance, health, liability, property, and workers' compensation. 5, capital projects. 6, fixed payments, EOC, health department, animal control, etc. C, the city manager will take the difference between the revenue budget and the major expenditure items back to the CFO and department heads to develop departmental operating budgets. D, the departmental operating budgets will be presented to the board with single line item expenditures exceeding $10,000 highlighted for explanation. 2, the city manager and CFO will provide the complete budget for the Board of Commissioners approval by the first May meeting. 3, the first reading of the budget ordinance will be during the second meeting in May. The second reading will be the first meeting in June. And 4, any type of surplus will be going into the unassigned category of the general fund. I think, in those dates, in fact, we even have, there is some leeway on even going past June 30th to get a budget developed. But I think this gives us an outline that are things to shoot for, and I think this is a year where we can really make a difference in the course our city's going as far as budget and opening up some opportunities to open up some cash flow categories that we're going to need a little time during this 3 months to get done. But I think as a rule of thumb to the Finance Review Committee, a system like this, under normal circumstances, makes a lot of sense.
Is there a motion?
Move to approve.
Okay, discussion. Tom, is this something the Finance Committee came up, or your recommendations, or?
This is from the Finance Review Committee, yes.
And when was this decided on?
I'd say probably 2 months ago.
Any other discussion? You feel good about this?
Yes, ma'am.
You think your department heads are going to have any money left?
I'm not sure about that. We'll see. We'll cross that bridge.
Okay. We have a first and second. No more discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, that brings us to H, discuss and take action on Bill 2015-10. Would you like to go?
Discuss or take action on Bill 2015-10, ordinance number 875, an ordinance to aid in establishing a healthy workplace for employees of the city of Fairview, Tennessee, by addition to the municipal code title 4 of the new chapter and section, chapter 5, section 5-101, Healthy Workplace Act, and 5-102, model abuse conduct, I don't have my glasses on, prevention policy. Mr. Crutchell.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, we have a first and second discussion.
I think this is a policy that's coming down, going to be mandated by the state anyway, am I right?
Well, mostly right. The state doesn't tell you you've got to pass it, but what it tells you, if you do pass the model policy that the committee that they appointed that studied this for 3 months and released their report on March 1st, if any municipality that adopts that in substantially the same words and language of the model form that was prepared by the committee, would have immunity from intentional infliction of distress involving bullying in the workplace. And what I did with this, if you recall, and I think we mentioned it last time, March 1st they came out with a model policy. It explains several things in great detail: what constitutes bullying, what does not constitute bullying. And what I did back in October, November 1, I had asked the board, this thing came out that they had this policy being prepared or would be prepared and released by March 1st, and they actually made the target date. I had asked the board to pass, and they did pass, an ordinance providing us with what I referred to then as an interim policy. It did not go into the detail that they did on this. I had not had a chance to study it for 3 months either, and I didn't have 100 people assisting me to work on it. But what I wanted to do was put the city in the best position I possibly could by passing an interim policy, and then I told you then we'd come back and ask you to amend it when this model policy was released. What I did in the ordinance is, and the policy itself, I kept, anytime a statute tells me that if you have it adopted or if you conform in essence to that policy, is why go do something else? If it says conform to this, you adopt that, and that's what's in the ordinance, with a few exceptions, the name of the city and some stuff that they had recommended that you needed to adapt to your city, and that was a very small part of it. But what I did in the first part of this ordinance was I kept a lot of the stuff that was in the original ordinance because it preserves the history of the ordinance, and it also refers to all the statutes. Now, the reason I let those statutes stay, in case somebody inadvertently left something out of the model policy and they're telling everybody to adopt this, we would still have it in there by having 2 sections to the ordinance. The second section just essentially adopts in the language of the committee report the provisions that it says you need to obtain this immunity. And that's what you have before you. I recommend that you approve it because we can't lose anything by it, and you could gain a great deal if somebody, the big damages in this type of a suit is going to be the infliction of emotional distress. And I can tell you right now, and I have nothing but the utmost respect for some of the people that's doing it, but the plaintiff's bar is lining up to present some of these suits. And it behooves any municipality, and I'm not speaking for them, I work for Fairview, they can do what they want. But if you don't have this, to me, it's just negligence. Because they've told you what you need to do to obtain immunity from this, and you don't get the immunity if you say, well, yeah, I know about this, but because I've got immunity, you can't be an active participant, says I'm just going to look the other way. If you actually perform in the manner that's selected, that's designated in the policy, then you get the immunity. And I would recommend that you approve it. Thank you.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, that will bring us to city manager's items of discussion.
Thank you, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Board of Commissioners. Just want to wish everyone a happy Easter, and let's remember the real purpose of the season. Tomorrow, City Hall will be closed in observance of Good Friday. Tonight, I'd like to thank the FRC, the BOC, and all of our directors in every effort that they are putting forward to try to bring this budget process together and try to do the cuts that is needed. It's Tom and Ms. Donna have worked super hard on it. I know y'all have put a lot of effort and work into it, and I just want to thank everybody for coming together. And you know, it's just the time that this is when we really need to come together. Anyway, that's all I have tonight. Thanks.
Thank you. City Attorney?
Thank you, Mayor. Due to the lateness of the hour, I won't take much time. If I had something that I thought you needed to know that was really bad, if it took some time, I'd do it. But since I don't, I just want to apologize to the board for apparently not knowing the difference between a animal apprehension and a drug task force. I
You
can
had
assure
me
you,
confused.
I can assure you I do, but I was working on that, and I read the thing here, and I guess when you expect to see something, that's what you see. But it wasn't intentional. I wasn't trying to mislead you, Commissioner Crutcher. That's all I have. I will, but at the next meeting, give you an update on the progress of the legislation relative to the consent agenda. I understand it passed the Senate the other day, I think with no opposition. So all they'd have to do now is get it together in the House, get it passed, and get it to the governor. But I'll have something in, maybe hopefully a little bit better information next week.
Okay.
Next meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Bissell,
No, ma'am.
Commissioner Crutcher,
Just want to wish everyone a happy Easter.
thank you. Commissioner Johnson?
Thank you, Mayor. Larry, if you would you explain the agenda item that I had on the agenda that was deleted, and I didn't even know it until I was walking in the building? Can you tell me why? I heard a
You
little.
talk about the resolution for the
The tree bank variance.
the tree bank variance. That's in
We're going to send it to the planning commission,
yeah,
as
it
I
was either in
understand it.
subdivision regulations or design review manual. Okay, by state statute, there are a few things, even though the planning commission is called it is a commission, but it does have some quasi-legal decisions. This is a little more than what you asked for, but it has some quasi-legal decisions in that if a plan is on their agenda, they can grant a variance for something that's in there that doesn't meet either one of the design criteria or a zoning variance. If they don't do it at that meeting, then it can still be done, but it has to go to the Board of Zoning Appeals. But they have, under their jurisdiction, where they make the final decision, they're basically a board that recommends also. In other words, like zoning that comes up, they can't rezone anything. They make a recommendation, send it up to the board. The board can either follow the recommendation, ignore the recommendation, or pass it. The planning commission has the option of sending it forward with a recommendation or without a recommendation. Or they can they can make a recommendation to disapprove, but the final decision would be here. But they do have final say on the land use map, the subdivision regulations, and what was the other one?
Design review.
Design review. And any committee can make a recommendation to them to change any one of those three documents. In this instance, for them to pass what you had suggested, they can pass it, but this board doesn't have control of that. You can make a recommendation and send it down to them for action, just like they make a recommendation and send it up to you. And that will be put on the agenda for, it won't make April probably, but
When does their agenda go out? It will make April, won't it? It's not till a week from Tuesday.
Yeah, the packet doesn't go out until the Friday before.
Okay.
Okay.
So it will make their agenda.
So it would
Okay.
be on the agenda. You can always add it.
You're right. Packet
Yeah.
goes out 15 days, I'm sorry.
So it went out last Friday.
Yeah. I believe the next meeting is the
I have my
14th.
packet.
You could always add it and email it to all the members, because I'm sure they've got emails.
Well, I would think something would be being done because this was removed from the agenda without my knowledge, and I asked for it to be on there. So I would think that we already had it taken care of, that it would be going to the planning commission if that was the reason it was removed. And with that saying, I believe the mayor attended a meeting here on Monday evening that Walter Rudd was part of. He is a real estate agent, and he is representing a piece of property that Judge Taylor and I think Terry and Roger Jones own jointly, some 30-something acres out at the corner of Rogan Road and 100. And a developer had come to them, I guess, almost 2 years ago, and our former codes department staff told them that if they developed that property with what they were looking at doing, there was over $800,000 worth of trees on that property that they would have to write a check to the city to pay for. They were being penalized because they had a wooded lot instead of just an open field. The developer then said that there would be no way they could just come up with an extra $800,000 for this property, whether you give it to the owner of the property or you get it to the city. It was going to cost an extra $800,000, and they just felt that that was completely out of line. And I started giving it a lot of thought, and we are penalizing people that have trees on their property when the very next door neighbor may have the exact same amount of land and not have but 5 trees on it. And they can sell theirs and the other people can't, and that's not right. I don't care whether you say we need to beautify the community by putting trees back or not. That's what this change was going to be. It was going to change the fee structure, which we have looked into and is way out of line with other cities across our county. This would bring it much more in line and put a cap on it, and it's going to do nothing but help improve development here in our city, and it's going to welcome people instead of running them off. So I hope that the Planning Commission will give this some serious thought.
Mr. Johnson, may I say one other thing? Remember that going to the Planning Commission, they only have to have one approval. They don't have to have 2.
Okay.
It's a resolution. It would be effective upon passage.
Are you done?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay. I don't know who we is that y'all looked at it, but Mr. Rudd didn't mention, I don't know what it had to do with me at the economic development. He never mentioned anything to me. So I don't know if you were making the correlation just for.
No, he told me Monday night. The whole story was he actually came here at evidently 6 o'clock and the meeting wasn't until 6:30. So he thought he had the wrong night. So he came to my house because he knew we were playing music, and he was telling me that he had the wrong night. No, I pulled it up on my phone and said, no, the meeting's at 6:30. So he came back. Well, he is in the process of trying to get the developer to come back and look at Fairview. So I'm sure I probably shouldn't be letting the cat out of the bag, but something has to be done because we're running people off.
Well, also what I found, what happened a couple years ago, people aren't thinking anymore. They want to be here and they'll pay to get here. Now, I'm not saying whether what you're saying is right or wrong, but I found when I go out to the county and I meet with these people, it's a different day. And that is something we discussed in the Economic Development Committee, that they know we're here and they want to be here. So we don't have to take the shirts off our backs and beg them. They're going to come. It's okay for us to set a standard, and because we have the ability to make a community that we're proud of and that everybody wants to live in, and it's beautiful. And so if we stick to some of our plans in the future, you're going to see more and more people want to be here because we protected our green space. We do, the parks is the #1 draw. We attended a Franklin Tomorrow meeting, and they had Dr. Compton come speak, and his whole presentation was on your green space, protecting your green space, investing in your park, recreation. They bring people to your city. And they bring all kinds of people. They bring your retirees that want to move here, and they don't cost us anything. And you bring young families that want to families and raise kids here. So, I don't know. I mean, I'm sure this is something maybe in the past, but we have a new coast director, we have a new board. I can't keep living in the past. If so, I would spend the time up here talking about the budget going, well, I said we shouldn't spend that money. I said, well, I can't do that. Even though I'd love to sit here and say, for, the 4 years I've been here, I've said, let's not spend, let's cut budget, let's not do this. But the thing about it is, we're here to fix this problem. And it's not going to do anybody any good for me to sit here and point fingers, and it's not any good to talk about 2 years ago. What we've got to do is learn from our mistakes and move forward, and together come up with solutions that fixes these problems. I cannot sit back and worry about 2 years ago, because what I have to deal with is today. So, the system has worked. Nothing's wrong with evaluating our systems and tweaking them. I'm not saying that. But I think we don't have to sell our souls. I think we can still run the business of the city and do what's best for the future, best for your kids and grandkids and people. I mean, a lot of families around here have been generational, and as far as I'm concerned, I one day hope to say my family, my kids, great-grandkids, it will be a new generational pattern. With that being said, happy Easter to everybody. Enjoy the day off to city staff. Don't come in and work, city staff. And enjoy your weekend. Do I have a motion?